So to be honest, I wanted to do an MBA after 3 or 4 years of experience itself. I had a couple of friends who had seen some good success. One of them got into INSEAD, another one got into Columbia, and both of them recommended MBA Crystal Ball. I think I was always under the impression that GMAT is the only main important thing that I need to crack to get into a good B school. And thanks to you and the team at MBA Crystal Ball, I realized that it is one aspect of it. And when we were doing the initial brainstorming sessions, also I realized that I'm able to unlock parts of my application which I hadn't even thought were so important to my application. So my final attempt came in. It happened very quickly because I was super excited to go to LBS. I think once someone gets really passionate about a school and they are able to fit how it's going to impact their career, everything else starts falling in place.
What does it take to get into an elite business school? MBA Crystal Ball is a boutique admissions consulting firm. Each year, we help a select few applicants get into the world's best business schools. Here's one of our success stories to inspire and educate.
Hello and welcome to MBA Crystal Ball's YouTube channel. Today we have with us Madhav Bhaskar, who has been in touch for nearly 3 years now. With a wealth of experience, he was in a dilemma regarding his fitment and had other challenges, but he ultimately came out triumphant. Let's hear his story. Welcome, Madhav.
Hi, Avinash. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Our pleasure as well. Can you please share a little bit about yourself, your background, your qualifications?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm Madhav. I'm technically an engineer. I finished my engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology. I did industrial engineering back in 2016. And then right out of college, I joined Goldman Sachs, worked there for 5 years, set up a team in Singapore. Then, after 5 years, moved to the VC ecosystem, joined Venture Catalyst, grew there to lead their investment team, and did over 150 early stage venture capital deals there. So that's been my journey so far. And now I lead investments at a VC fund where, it's my own fund. We invest in SME stage companies now.
That's certainly a very interesting and eclectic arc. How did this transition from engineering to the deepest world of finance happen?
So it's a very interesting one, actually. I started in the second year of college. I did an internship, and that's where I realized, I had more inclination towards business and finance as compared to core technical engineering subjects. And even the electives I took in college after that were more business related, and whatever best I could do there. That kind of helped me when Goldman Sachs came to our college. We used to have college recruitment, and during my interviews, brought this fact out that I had good interest towards the finance world and business, and that's where moved towards Goldman. I joined in an operations role, but then through navigating internally, networking with a lot of people internally, found my way into commodity structuring. So that was a very interesting journey for me. And parallelly, I also gave a level 1 of CFA to kind of strengthen my basics of finance, because I realized I need some technical finance education as well. So that kind of helped me transition from core engineering to finance. And then once you're at Goldman, I think it's the one of the best organizations anyone in the finance industry could work at, and it deepened my interest in finance overall. So yeah.
Given this background, when did the seed of an MBA get initiated and why?
So to be honest, I wanted to do an MBA after 3 or 4 years of experience itself. So this was like, 2020, I initially decided that I want to do an MBA. At that point, it was for a very different reason. I wanted to move geographies also. I wanted to move industries. I wanted to get into core investment banking back then. Um, but somehow, at that time, the VC ecosystem also was very intriguing, and I ended up getting in an opportunity which typically people get after an MBA to move to the VC ecosystem. That was also predominantly through networking and talking to a lot of people, understanding the VC landscape in India. So I decided at that point that, I'll take up the VC role first, get some more experience in the VC space, and then go into an MBA. And that is when, after a couple of years of experience there, I reached out to you guys around 3 years back, where, I thought now I want to do an MBA to get more of a global perspective on things and really understand how the financial ecosystem works on a global from a global lens. So yeah, so 3 years back with I think I had good amount of experience, around 5 6 years of experience, is when I decided, okay, now I definitely want to go for an MBA. I started the journey there, and it's been quite a journey from there till now as well.
Yeah, and I've been a witness to it. So, what can you tell us about your GMAT prep journey?
So I think I used to, try to juggle a lot between the work and studying and preparing for GMAT. I think I was always under the impression that GMAT is the only main important thing that I need to crack to get into a good B school. And thanks to you and the team at MBA Crystal Ball, I realized that, it is one aspect of it. I need to treat it with a lot of importance, but I also need to work on other aspects of my profile. So while I was preparing initially, I started with a very haphazard way of preparing, went for some random coaching classes which claimed to be, training for 100 percentile score, etc. I think those seemed a little gimmicky to me. Eventually met this professor. He's a math professor. Mr. Avinash is, coincidentally, even his name is Avinash.
Okay.
He helped me a lot prepare for core concepts of quant. Now, over the time, I realized that, GMAT is not a math and English test. It is a business, it's a school, it's a test that kind of readies you for business school, or checks for your readiness for the business school. So he taught me quant from a very different lens. I always, took pride that I'm an engineer, I know math very well, so I'm going to ace the GMAT. But Avinash sir really helped me, ace the GMAT, understand which questions need to be attempted in a time constraint manner, how I need to, really go deeper into the concepts to answer questions quicker. And similarly for verbal as well, I had an individual teacher. She taught at this institute called Jambori earlier. She helped me a lot with the verbal side of things. And over my preparation journey itself, GMAT changed from GMAT to GMAT Focus Edition. So there were a lot of changes. So, being in that guided environment really helped me a lot prepare for the GMAT.
Interesting. You hit the nail on its head there. Yeah, GMAT is not a maths and verbal test. It is a test for readiness for business education, certainly. Now, when it came to working with a consultant for your MBA application journey, why did you decide to work with MBA Crystal Ball? What was the thought process behind that?
So, again, through my GMAT journey only, I realized that, getting into a B school needs to be a structured approach. It cannot be haphazard. It should not be done randomly. I had a couple of friends who had seen some good success. One of them got into INSEAD, another one got into Columbia, and both of them recommended MBA Crystal Ball. I had spoken to a lot of consulting firms before I zeroed down on MBA Crystal Ball, actually. And the thought was that, I want someone, typically a lot of the consultants work with people who have 2 to 4 years of experience itself. That's a sweet spot. And I needed someone who can, kind of tailor make this application process for me. Even in our first conversation, I remember you had mentioned that I should look at some of the additional courses as well, like the Stanford MSX program. And, that kind of widened my horizon in terms of understanding, okay, these are also opportunities that can be explored with someone coming with my kind of experience. And then I also needed someone who can, kind of help me with not a one fit for all kind of formula. And when I spoke to you, I spoke to Manish, realized that, we can go really deep into my profile. And when we were doing the initial brainstorming sessions also, I realized that, I'm able to unlock parts of my application which I hadn't even thought were so important to my application. So if this was all in the very, very initial stages, and then after that I zeroed down, okay, fine, really want to work with MBA Crystal Ball, because I felt that there is precedent of good results, as well as I felt that comfort working with you as well as Manish, to really understand and go deep into my journey and apply that way.
Certainly. So, given your higher work experience, from a storytelling perspective, from what you wanted to cover in the essays, what are the main thoughts in your mind? What do you think were your strengths that we were able to present in the application in a compelling manner?
I think what became very important was one, the transitions moving from engineering to Goldman in commodities, then to venture capital. Um, all of it on prima facie looks very good, but to really join the dots, have that seamless connection between why I moved, and these were things that obviously intuitively I did think of these things when I was moving these roles, but when I was applying, when I was initially trying to write these essays, I was just putting them as facts. Okay, I did this. Worked at Goldman, worked at in the VC space. So I think one thing that stood out was the transitions from these roles across, right from an early stage to a later stage in my journey. Second, I think, was to bring out the leadership part of it, right? Like, I had a lot of international experience working in Dubai, working, setting up the team in Singapore, leading teams across various parts of my journey. And that was, I think, brought out very well in the eventual application, which I think, if you're just stating facts, we are not quantifying things. These are things that, through my conversations with you, came out very well, that the same thing being said as a fact can be not very impactful, but then when I quantified the same thing, when I thought of it in a more elaborate way, it came out very powerfully, and I think someone reading it also was able to understand the gravity of what I had done or achieved in my life. So just to bring out those achievements very well was very important, and that worked out very well for me, I think.
Where did you interview and any standout experiences from the interview?
So, for so I applied to very few schools actually eventually, because I was looking for a very specific kind of experience. So I applied only to LBS, Stanford, and a couple of more schools. And for LBS, my interview was at the office of the person. So this was a gentleman who is an LBS alumni itself. Is that the question, right? Like, I'm sure am I getting the question right?
Sure, yeah.
Where was the interview? Right. So
The
this
any
was an
standout
LBS alumni.
experience from the interview?
Yes, it was actually. I always thought of communication being a stronger suit for me. I thought, I could communicate my ideas and all very well, but it was a little nervy going into that interview experience. It was at an LBS alumni's office. He's a CEO of a listed company, very senior professional, came from the 2008 batch of LBS or 2010 batch, if I'm not wrong. And generally, I speak to a lot of HNIs, ultra HNIs on an ongoing basis as part of my job. So it wasn't that big of a hassle. But the questions were very specific to, okay, why this particular school? Why do you feel like, this is going to be the best fit? And questions were it. I thought of it like a work interview, but then it became very conversational over a point of time, and they had specific nuances inside the interview as well. There was a case study that I had to present, which was like a 10-minute exercise, which was very different from any other interview I had done. But yeah, I mean, these were typically parts of the interview that were very interesting. But otherwise, it was predominantly a double click on my entire resume, as well as whatever I'd written in my application, just to know me a little better and understand if I'll be a good fit for the class in general. Yeah.
Great. So, any tips for future MBA aspirants? Anything that you would like to share?
100%. I think it's very important to talk to a lot of alumni of the schools that you're looking to apply to. This worked out very well for me. In fact, I got super passionate about LBS after visiting London, and I know that is not an option for everybody. Some people might be able to do that if you can, nothing like it. But otherwise, also people are very receptive on LinkedIn. If you reach out to alumni, I had almost 20 coffee chats with the four schools, the alumni of the four schools that I applied to, and 20 coffee chats each. So really spoke to a lot of alumni to understand how their journey was, and what worked for them really well. I think once someone gets really passionate about a school and they are able to fit how it's going to impact their career, everything else starts falling in place. The passion for GMAT, if my final attempt, when I'd taken, I think, a couple of retakes on the GMAT as well. So my final attempt came in. It happened very quickly because I was super excited to go to LBS. I was super, fascinated by the kind of potential and the unlocking it will serve for me. So one, talk to a lot of alumni, understand why it is a great fit. Get in touch with the consultant, the GMAT prep coaching, try to do it in a very structured manner, and don't overemphasize on any single part of the application, because I think the letter of recommendation, the story, the SOP, the resume, the GMAT, all of them have a good amount of weightage. So just getting stuck to one of them can be very time consuming. So don't do that. Hopefully that could be one learning that someone could take from my experience.
These are indeed very relevant points that you brought up, Madhav. Thank you so much. It was great talking with you, and we wish you a lot of success with your MBA journey and, of course, realizing your post MBA career goals. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Avinash. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck to everyone watching.
We hope you found this interview helpful. At MBA Crystal Ball, we've helped many applicants get into the elite business schools, often with scholarships. Reach out if you're looking for professional help with your applications. Good luck.